It's so good to see everyone this week. First of all, I just want to congratulate everyone for the amazing job that you are doing. You guys are so incredible. And South Africa and Namibia is on the move. And so congratulations to all of you for sharing the hope. My name is Tammy Maltby. If Melchizedek, if I haven't met you, that's who I am. I live here in Colorado Springs. I know we have so many new reps that are joining us. So I just want to give a really warm welcome. And as we wait for Dell to jump on, I'm going to go ahead and share something with you this morning. Last week, I think it was last week, maybe it was the week before, Erika and I got onto a Zoom and we started to talk from our hearts, why we got into the business, why we jumped in full force, why when Erika came to the United States, and how we linked arms together. And when she saw that ARIIX was open in South Africa, how she jumped in and wanted to bring hope and inspiration to her country. And, you know, to me, that is such an incredibly compelling why. And we all have to have a why that's bigger than us. Gary Racer, my mentor, used to say, we need a why big enough to make us cry. And so I'm going to just share with you a fairly private story about my life, because this is a training call. And I want you to know who I really am and why I really jumped into this business. Some of you know that because we didn't train when Erika and I did this training a couple weeks ago, we didn't record it. So I'm going on the record today. So some of you have asked for my story personally. So I'm going to give it to you and share. Actually, I think Dell is on. Oh, I might wait on my story. Now you'll have to tune back in. But I do want to share my story with you because several of you on this Zoom have asked for why I jumped into this business and how it was so transformational for my life. And I want to share with you that this opportunity, even though I had some success in what I had done in the past, I knew I needed a better way. 2008 came, and a lot of you know Jerry and I, my husband, who is a retired lieutenant colonel, he taught at the Air Force Academy for 9 years, and he jumped into real estate after his years of service. And he had had quite a bit of success, but 2008 happened, and that was really a challenging season. We had all of our investments were in land, and we lost everything over a 24-month period of time. And those were dark, hard days. And so I want you to know my why at that point was to help us to get out of debt. We lost a company. We lost several properties. And, you know, to create your life when you're in your 40s is one thing. To do it in your 50s is something altogether. And yet someone I trusted shared with me about this opportunity. I know I was ripe for this because one particular day when things were really, really challenging with us, and I share this with you very openly and transparently, that it was at this point, I came to my husband and I said, Jerry, we have so much debt. We have so many bills to pay off. I said, we have to sell my wedding ring. And it was the one beautiful thing that I had that was worth a significant value. And I remember my husband just looked at me horrified and he said, I just feel like I failed you. I feel like I failed our family. And, you know, we both felt that way. And I don't know where you're at today, but that's where we were at. We needed a better way. And we went in and sold my ring, and we were able to pay off a debt that we owed. And it was just kind of a low of a low. And in that season of a low, I had a great why that was birthed inside of me. I wanted to live life differently. I wanted to get out of debt. I wanted to have another stream of income. And a really good friend of mine introduced me to this business. And I'll just tell you, within about a year and a half period of time from starting in this business, we had some significant success with our team. And I remember my husband said, when you hit 100K, we're going to buy back your ring. And when we hit 100K, I said, nope, we have too many more debts to pay off. Not practical me, you know? And he said, when we hit 200K, I was like, nope, maybe 3. Finally, we were bringing in $500,000 of revenue in our team a month. And that was the day my husband said to me, I want you to get in the car. And I got in the car and we went back. It's going to make me cry. We went back and we bought my wedding ring. And you know, it's beautiful. It's just a thing, but it represents so much restoration. So I want you to remember why you do what you do, wherever you are, wherever your financial need is. Just remember someone is waiting to hear this amazing opportunity that will not just be informational for them, but truly transformational. So I lead with my heart. And I'm so pleased to have all of you on my team. And thank you so much for entrusting Erika and I as we take off with this adventure with you with South Africa. Well, today I want to introduce you to an amazing man. I just want to make sure that he is on. Is Dell on?
Yes, he's on there. I made him a co-host. He can unmute.
Awesome. Let me introduce you to Dell. So I personally don't know Dell. I heard him on a Zoom with our North American General Manager, Rick Redford, who I call the president of everything. He's one of the most astounding men. I just love Rick Redford. And he has industry legends on several of our training calls. And some of them aren't even inside our business. They run other network marketing companies. They have other teams, but they bring such a wealth of information and training. And so I heard Dell, actually Erika and I heard him, and I was blown away. I was like, this guy's mindset, if I could just get his mindset into my mindset and into all of your mindsets, you are going to grow. You are going to be challenged. He had a rough, he'll probably tell you part of his story, but he grew up in a challenging situation and overcame so much. He went into the military. He became a pilot. And in the midst of all this, he grew this huge network marketing company and became very, very successful. And now his whole life is to pay it forward, to pour into our lives as a new team in South Africa, to give us hope, to give us vision, to never give up. And so Dell, I want to give you the warmest welcome. Thank you. You have no invested interest in this team. You don't make a penny from us. But here you are, so successful, and you show up to encourage a brand new team doing absolutely incredible things, taking the entire country of South Africa and Namibia. So welcome, and we're so thankful you're with us today.
Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed your story. I'm sorry I was a few minutes late. I was running. Sorry, my hair is all messed up. It was windy outside. But I didn't want to be late. So it's such a pleasure to be on. And the things you said are just awesome, because I believe that all of us have within us the seeds of greatness. And we just have to find them. And they usually don't come out without challenges and overcoming things. It's kind of the law of progression. You know, you have to deal with things and overcome them. And I love talking about the subject of changing our mindsets, because mindset is what it's all about. I know, I'll just give you a little brief history. Is it Tammy? Is it?
Yes, thank you, Dell. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. It was kind of mentioning some things, but I grew up a long time ago on a farm in Idaho, and I was number 4 of 5 boys in a family. And
wow.
My mom died when I was very young. So my father raised 5 boys, and I've gone back. We've kind of restored that little old house now, and it was 640 square feet. And I don't know how we existed. We had no running water. We had inside. We had 2 tiny bedrooms. They're like 7.5 by 10 feet, barely enough to get a bed in there and a few clothes. and the other room. And the other room was everything. It had a fold-out bed and a piano because my mom played the piano, and a oil heater. That's all it was. But from that, I created a why, as you mentioned. I wanted to grow up and have a bathroom inside the house. Those
Wow.
cold Idaho winters are not too great, and for going outside a lot. Anyway, it was just things like that. So what my whole life was about is, on the farm, we were working from before the sun came up until after it went down. And when we got lights, we worked even more. And so, but I learned two things on the farm. One was hard work. And I also found out that hard work is not the answer, because my father was probably one of the greatest men I've ever known. And he really had nothing materially, but he was a worker, and he was a good person, and he helped everyone and helped me, I think, with the values that I have today. And so I learned that, and I learned the law of the harvest. And the law of the harvest to me is the most important thing that I can relate to in anything I do in life, because we're so much like nature. And in fact, plants are either growing or they're dying. There's no neutral. And so we're either progressing and overcoming things, or we're dying, we're going backwards. And so one of the things that I learned later, well, let me just go ahead. So on the farm, I learned the law of the harvest. I learned that if you plant poor seeds in poor soil and don't take care of things, there's no harvest, no matter how much work you put in. So it's important to have the right seeds. It's important to put them in a fertile place where they can grow and multiply, and then take care of them. It's a lot of work, if you've ever had a garden or you're on a farm, to keep the weeds out and the birds out and all the things that try to destroy the harvest that you want. Well, that's pretty much like life. There's all kinds of things trying to destroy what it is that you're trying to do. And so I learned that. And then the only way that us boys could get out of work on the farm was to play on the high school ball teams. So of course you probably figured that out. All five of us played football, basketball, baseball, and track year round, and we never missed a church meeting, because that was the other thing. And those two things really gave me my anchors and really helped me so much in life. And I would never been able to go to college, but I was able to get an athletic scholarship and go to the school of my choice and be able to accomplish a few things in my life. And so it also taught me the most important thing, and that was teamwork.
Yes.
We can do so much more as teams and working together and supporting and helping each other than we can individually.
Yes.
And it's harder. I've done individual sports, I've done team sports. It's easier to just be on your own and do it. But in any kind of situation where you want to be successful, it really takes teamwork. And there's a lot of skills that go into that. So from that, I was riding on the tractor one day. Well, I'd done it many times, and was driving on this long row, and I saw an airplane come up over the horizon. It goes all the way across the sky and disappears. And I thought, I'm going down the same row. I wanted to go somewhere. And so I didn't even know what pilots did. I just knew that someday I wanted to be one. So that became planted in my mindset, in the back of my mind, that someday I want to be a pilot. And so it didn't come around the way I hoped or envisioned, but eventually I became a pilot. I got drafted in the Army. I was able to get out of that because I wanted to be a pilot, got into the Air Force. That's a long story, but it was all these principles that we talk about of persistence and consistency and doing all those things. And I was able to get in the Air Force, and I flew in the Vietnam War, went as a fighter pilot and flew other airplanes, and later was a commercial airline pilot for Delta Airlines for a bunch of years. So I've had the privilege of traveling all over the world. I love Africa and South Africa. Been many places there. Went to, one thing I'll just tell you is when I was turning 60, which was quite a few years ago, I decided to do something every year that I didn't think I could do to prove that I could do it.
I love it.
And so 1960, I went to Kilimanjaro in Tanzania and climbed Mount Kilimanjaro
Wow.
and learned there that it wasn't a race to the top. If you just put one foot in front of the other and you didn't quit and you just kept going, you eventually reached the top. And so I use all of those type of things in my training because people can kind of relate to that. That was very hard when we got up above 18,000 feet, the last, 1,500 feet or so. There's not much oxygen at 19,000, and you never know how you're going to react, but we made it, and it was an enjoyable thing. I did it with my son, and it was an incredible experience. So a pilot is a very important thing because I use a lot of metaphors in training about pilots. As an example, as a commercial airline pilot and as a Vietnam War fighter pilot and transport pilot, I always reached my destination.
Nice.
I didn't take off for anywhere I didn't land. It's a good thing. If you're ever one of my passengers, I guess you made it. But there's a lot that goes into that planning and preparation and qualifications, and then knowing what your challenges are and be able to overcome. Sometimes we had some pretty bad storms. We'd have to either fly over them or around them or sometimes through them. But it can be done. It's a mindset that you never quit until you reach your destination, you reach your why. And so those are things that had great importance to me. So in the spring of 1963, I know that's hard for a lot of you to think back then, but I was 21 years old. I had just returned from a couple of years, eastern part of the United States on a mission for my church. And I had the good fortune of being introduced to an 80-year-old individual. Now I'm 21, he's 80 years old. I didn't know who he was. He'd heard about my story in athletics, and the person introducing us had me tell that story. And as I told my story, he invited me to join him at the Napoleon Hill Academy and teach his philosophy.
Wow.
And so obviously, if you know who Napoleon Hill is,
Yeah.
it changed my life forever. He
Oh
helped
my
me.
goodness.
I remember one time talking about my childhood and how we didn't have anything, and it was kind of negative, and how I would travel with the ball team, and we'd stop to eat somewhere or get something, and I didn't have a nickel in my pocket, and I was too proud, I guess, or very humble. People would offer to me to buy me something. I'd say, no, I'm not hungry. When I was really hungry, and all those things would work on me is why don't you let them feed you? But anyway, it helped me overcome those things and get some of the things I wanted in life. And so Napoleon Hill, this was in the spring of 1963. He had the Napoleon Hill Foundation then, but he was going to form something called the Napoleon Hill Academy. The Napoleon Hill Academy actually got started in February of 1964. And the purpose of the Napoleon Hill Academy was to teach the philosophy in the schools in America. And so it was to get it into the schools, because it's very hard to get any curriculum into the schools. It's not there because, and I'll tell you that we didn't really succeed at that, because there was every principal, teacher, superintendent of schools I talked to wanted it, but they say, so what do we take out? Home ec, math, dance, whatever it was. And so we weren't successful with that. So then we started teaching it to individuals and groups. And so the Law of Personal Achievement was the basic course. It was 4 volumes, and it takes down and breaks down all the things that are in Think and Grow Rich. So let me give you a little backstory on that. Those of you who don't know, Napoleon Hill was born in 1983. That is a long time ago. And so to know that his life touched mine and I'm still living, that's a 137-year span. And so he was a typical American. 1908, he had gotten a job writing stories for a success magazine in Washington, D.C. to pay his way through law school at George, I think it was George Washington Law School. And so his very first assignment, think of this, you get a new job, your very first assignment is drive from Washington, D.C. out to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, it's quite a little drive, and interview Andrew Carnegie, who was the world's, at that point, the world's richest man, and worth of well over $500 million then, which is many, many billions today in thinking about it. But he had come to America when he was 17 from Ireland, I think it was, and he couldn't afford the ticket. So he borrowed the money to get here. And then some 40 years later, he's the world's richest man, and he's asking, Napoleon Hill was going out to interview him. So this interview was scheduled for 3 hours. At the end of 3 hours, it was going well, and Andrew Carnegie said, "This is you need to stay over, and we need to continue this." So it went for 3 days, asking all kinds of questions, discussions, and then Napoleon Hill was asked a question by Andrew Carnegie. Unbeknownst to Napoleon Hill, he was being timed, and he was only going to give him a minute to make that decision. But after he talked all these things, the question was, because Andrew Carnegie believed he had developed an economic formula that if people could be taught it and would follow it, they could be, do, or have anything they wanted in life. How many of you would like that formula? If you could
Yes.
be anything, do anything, have anything you wanted in life. And so the challenge was, he was going to commission Napoleon Hill to use his name to go out and interview thousands and thousands of people who did not reach their goal. And Andrew Carnegie would introduce to him, turned out to eventually be 504 of the most successful people in the world, and see what the difference was in their philosophies. And so the question was, I'll commission you, which means no pay. You can use my name. He did provide some expense for travel when he first started out, but he wanted Napoleon Hill to learn the principles and live them. So if you know Napoleon Hill's story much, he had a lot of challenges, setbacks, frustrations, and but he had promised he'd see this through. So the question was, will you spend the next probably 20 years researching to prove my formula of success? And Napoleon Hill would often ask people, so what would you think? He was at that point 25 years old, recently married, no money, and trying to work his way through law school. He had his hand in his pocket, and he said, in his mind, he was coming up with all the excuses like we always do when we're asked something that's hard to make a decision on. And he said he was thinking that and about ready to say no when a thought propped in his mind. It said, he must see something in you don't see in yourself. And so with that, he started thinking differently. And then it was almost like a little voice on his shoulder that said, say yes and say you'll see it through. So he just blurted out, yes, I will, and I'll see the project through. And Andrew Carnegie said, I like your answer and I believe you will. Stopped the watch, and it was 27 seconds. It only taken him 27 seconds to make that huge decision, because he had to go home now and tell his wife, I'm working for the world's richest man. He's not going to pay me. It's probably going to take me 20 years to do this. And so obviously they had some very serious discussions over that. Anyway, he decided to do that. And over time, he interviewed 25,000 people.
Wow.
Who did not reach their goals. And 504 of the most successful, and took all that information and wrote it up into 1925. He published The Laws of Success. There are copies from 1925. It's most people say it was published in 1928, but I have a copy of the 1925 one here somewhere. I'll show you.
Wow.
So 1925.
Wow.
And
That's
that was, it was 8 volumes then of what is called the science of success, laws of success. So when Andrew Carnegie was supporting Napoleon Hill going through that, he had a lot of setbacks. Napoleon Hill then, well, he had a lot of failures, setbacks, frustrations. If any of you want a really good book to read, you haven't read it, I'd recommend Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. That was never published. It was ready for publishing in 1938, but it kind of knocks schools and religion a little bit because how he felt it kept their ingenuity and their creativity down. And so his wife worked for a big Protestant church back in Virginia and was the secretary. She's afraid if he published that, she might lose her job. And so she never let him publish it. And he died before she did. And then it turned over to a nephew, and his wife didn't really want to publish it. So it didn't get published till 2011. But it is, there's nothing really new in it that I hadn't heard, that he hadn't told us, but it was never put into work. So let me go back to, in the 1930s, Napoleon Hill was the assistant to the president of the United States, Franklin D. Roosevelt. And back during the Depression, when the United States would be tuning in for fireside chats every Sunday night, the president of the United States would speak over radio positive things. Well, Napoleon Hill wrote all of those, like we have nothing to fear but fear itself, and all those great sayings. That's good. So Napoleon Hill wrote those because by that time he'd become very successful, and he was actually an assistant to two presidents of the United States. It was interesting that one time he was asked how much he was getting paid, and he said, "I'm not getting paid." And they said, "Oh, we got to pay you." And so he agreed to take $1 a year to advise the presidents of the United States. But that's the type of person and type of mindset Napoleon Hill had, that if you help other people, it'll come back to you. And it kind of has to be in that order. So it's service, it's helping others, it's even seeing something other people they don't see in themselves, so that they'll want to do it. And it's great in this industry that we're in, of relationship marketing, of doing that, seeing something in a person and praising them and encourage them to keep improving themselves. So Napoleon Hill then wrote this book, Think and Grow Rich, while he was working in the White House with Franklin D. Roosevelt, because everything would come up, he said he'd tell the president of the United States, well, it's in the book, The Laws of Success. And he said, I don't have time to read it. Will you write me a summary? And so the book that he's known of, I'll show you my original one. I have to hold it together now. It's been pretty well used. Every page is marked, is Think and Grow Rich.
Yes.
And I will tell you that there's a lot of people that bothers them because they think it's about money. And when Napoleon Hill was asked that, he told us, no, you have to think this was written during the Depression. Most people didn't have jobs. They were desperate to get some money just to put some food on the table for their family. And so if you wrote a philosophy book, they wouldn't read it. So we came up with the idea, Think and Grow Rich. And then he would explain it to us. It's really think and grow rich, or think and whatever it is you want. Mm-hmm. The whole thing is based on thinking, because everything that's created physically is created either mentally or spiritually first.
Yes.
And so one of the great principles of Napoleon Hill is number 5 in the 13 principles in Think and Grow Rich, is imagination. And he told us that there's 2 great things that human beings as a race, we have that no other living thing on the earth has. One is imagination, and the second is choice. So if we have imagination, see, I was a dreamer. In high school, the teachers were always saying, Dell, pay attention. I was looking outside to see when we could go play ball, or I was dreaming, and they called me a kind of a dreamer. But that's where it all started. All the ideas that I had to be a pilot was dreaming on the tractor, going faster, going somewhere. It was, with the ball teams, it was winning the games. And so it turned out that Napoleon Hill heard about my story and he asked me, have you read Think and Grow Rich? And I told him I hadn't. But the person that introduced us, who was my older brother, who had been quite involved in sleep teaching and the developing of the mindset way before it was popular, way back in the 40s and the 50s, told him that he'd taught me these principles, and that's what I used in my sports. That's how I was able to become not that big of a guy. I'm 5'8", 170 pounds. So I wasn't that big in high school. And basketball was my main sport, but all the sports, because I had a mindset that I could do it. I would never give up. And so what he taught me to do was how to make foul shots in basketball. And I got so I could make every one of the foul shots. And because he told me, he said, if you make the foul shots, the coach will have you in at the most important time, because if you're behind, they're going to foul your team. And if you can make the shots, you can win the game. So I visualized that. And the key of that is seeing it happen in your mind and in feeling the emotion of when it happens. Now that's true in anything we have. That's true in romance. It's true in relationships. It's true in anything. And he taught me if it worked in basketball, work in football. And then I saw how my improvement in football went. I saw me throwing every touchdown pass or running it in and winning the games and all that in my mind, which we all dream, but it's then putting the emotion behind it, the belief, the faith, and believing in it until you reach your goals. So those were the things that really helped me change my life. So the thing I want to tell you is when I first met him, I mentioned this earlier, that I kept talking about how poor I was and I didn't have anything. I mean, I didn't keep, but every time somebody asked me the story, and he said to me one time, he said, you have a great story and you've used it well to become where you are now. But if you keep talking that way, keep thinking that, that's where you'll end up. So he says, if you want to change your current circumstances, so think of this, I'll ask all of you, if you want to change your current circumstances, what do you have to do? This is what Napoleon Hill told me. He said, you have to change everything about you, the way you think, the way you act, your expectations, your habits you develop, all of those things. So I found over time that works in everything I do. It's every part of my life. It's making the changes. Leaders are not born, they're developed.
Yes.
We don't just become, some people may have more talent in doing this, but it's the skills and the things that you deliver. And so what I really want to talk about to you is the mindset of using your imagination, because every thought you have, and scientists tell me that it's pretty amazing at first, but if you sit down and kind of analyze it, you can see it's probably true that the average human mind thinks 60 to 90,000 thoughts a day. Now you're jumping back and forth because you are going from one second. This is very important about my next appointment. Let me just tell them yes. Thank you. What was I saying, Tammy?
60 to 90,000
yeah,
thoughts.
60 to 90,000 thoughts a day. And the research shows that 90% of those are the same thoughts you thought yesterday and the day before and last month. And so if we're not thinking right, we are using the law of attraction to bring us all the things we don't want.
Yes, yes.
Because a thought, this is the way my dad taught it to me when I was young. He said a thought that's repeated over and over has to express itself in an action. Actions, when repeated over and over, become habits. Habits make up our character, and that's who we are. So if we want to develop a good habit, then we start out with a thought and repeating it over and over, and then put an action to it. And then emotion, which then helps us develop habits. And we're creatures of habits. So the secret of life, in my opinion, is making the right decisions consistently over a sustained period of time. That's what's called next level growth. If you're at a certain place and you want to go to a higher level, then you need to go that next level. You need to have the philosophy or whatever you believe and how you believe it. That's the process of making correct decisions consistently over a sustained period of time. Because once you do that, you have the right habits, you normally do the right habits. Now, if you want to change a bad habit, that's a difficult thing. Scientists tell us, psychologists, it takes 21 days of concentrated effort. And I think it's at least that, sometimes it's more. But you have to do the other. So if you have a bad habit, just think of this. How do you change it? Most people try to change the action. They're doing everything with the action. And I can guarantee you that 99% of the time, action will fail because you don't have enough willpower to change it, unless you go back to changing your thinking. When I started thinking there was nothing in this world I decided I really wanted and really would put in the time and effort to do that I couldn't have, that was a mindset that I don't want to ever let go of.
Right.
It works in relationships, it works in business, it works anything. Yes. The sad part of that, the law of attraction, is it works for negative as well as positive. Mm-hmm. So these same principles, other than truth, these same principles will work for the bad guys. And unfortunately in the world, most people, the bad guys are doing all these things and they can be very bad at doing something bad. But if we want to do the good, then we have to do it. And there's a simple process, probably like 4 steps that we need to do. So mainly we need to learn to set goals, worthwhile goals. What it is to me, when Napoleon Hill helped me understand what my chief aim in life was, my life changed. I used to think this or that or other things, but your chief aim in life is usually something that will become your North Star. So after that, once you've decided that, and it took me many, many years to really kind of figure it out, and I can redo it a little bit. But now any decision that comes up, does it take me towards that? Then okay, I'll consider it. If it takes me away, then it's an absolute no. It's not even hard to make that decision. And so the thing about goals, a lot of people don't think they work. Why do they don't think they work? Because we've always been taught to set our new goals on New Year's, the things we're going to do. Those are not goals, those are wishes. I'm going to lose this much pound. I'm going to move to this new house. I'm going to do all these things. They're all good things, but we're not committed to them. They're wishes. A wish is much different than a burning desire. And so we have to eliminate things. And so in doing so, the key thing is knowing what you want. I think the saddest thing in life, I used to have a sign on my refrigerator so my kids would see it growing up, and I'd read it off, and it says, the saddest thing in life is giving up what you want most for what you want now.
Ooh. Wow.
And that's
good.
That's tough, because whether it's weight loss or not, we just had a birthday, big party here yesterday and stuff, and we had, some ice cream and things at the end. And I usually don't eat those, not because I don't like them, but because I don't like the results. But I indulged in that. But I indulged freely, thinking, okay, it's okay to do this once in a while. But I know that to achieve some of my other goals, I don't do that. So don't give up what you want most, what you want to do now. I've worked with a lot of people who had high goals, whether it's in sports or in business or whatever, and they were so focused on getting there that they gave up what they wanted most, which was usually their family and spouse and whatever, because they were so focused on what they want. So if that's not where you want to go, make sure that where you're going is where you want to go. And so thoughts are things, they're magnetic. With every thought, there's a positive or a negative emotion, and we can make the choice. So let me give you just a statistic that in the 1990s, I was part of a group, just a small part, but of a group that did a big study in Southern California. And this was the surprising results. It didn't surprise me, but it surprised everybody else in the thing was, and only because I'd worked with Napoleon Hill. 9 out of 10 people. So just think, if you're sitting in a room with 10 people, statistically, 9 out of 10, 92% of the time, their dominant thought, that's what they think about often with emotion, is about the things they don't want. In other words, their fear and their worries. And so what's happening in the world is that people keep doing that, and they use the law of attraction wrongly, not knowing the law or how to apply it, and they're attracting the very things they don't want,
Yes.
which are usually based on all the negative emotions: anger, fear, worry, hate, all those type of things. But if we can learn, and it's not easy, it's a constant choice, even if you know, because knowledge is power, but it's only power if we know how to apply it.
Yes.
And we apply it correctly. And so when you have that, then you need to write it out. Napoleon Hill found out the 504 people all wrote out what their goals were. I mean, think of that. Henry Ford not only wrote it out every morning, the first thing he got up in the morning, he read aloud his goals, so his subconscious mind could hear his own voice saying it with emotion. Every night before he went to bed, he read out his goal. And even when he was told by all his engineers, it's impossible to make an 8-cylinder engine, he said, no, I've seen it. I've seen it in my mind. I know it's there. Keep working, keep working. And now look at the cars that flood the world. And so that's what something can do. When somebody believes in something that everybody says can't be done, I say it this way. When somebody's telling you it can't be done, they're usually interrupted by somebody doing it. I like to work with doers.
Yes.
We like to work with people who believe in themselves and have a goal and work for it. So you write this goal out. You need to make it very specific, because the subconscious mind only can take in specific things. In other words, I remember I'd never had a car, and when I first got network marketing 50 years ago, it had a car program. You could earn a car. And Napoleon Hill had told us that, if you have something like that you want, and you go take a picture of it, go down, sit in the car, feel it, what it's, all the things you like about it, get a picture, put it on your wall. And if you focus on that every morning, every day, and you're really working towards it, within 6 months, it'll show up in your driveway. Sure enough, it did. And so it works with all kinds of things. We have to have the patience and the persistence to keep going. But once you write that down very specifically, it's key to say it over to yourself every morning and every night in your mind until you have it memorized, and then you just still keep doing it. All those 504 people did it all the time. Now, how do you decide on what goals that you want? Well, I've worked with a guy named David Bird, who's very, very good. He was the right-hand man of Paul J. Myers, who, worked a lot in personal development and public relations, and became a billionaire and very successful. And he says, and I like it very much, is have a 5-year dream every year. Pick a time. Your birthday, I do it on my birthday. A lot of people do it New Year's Day, or whatever time that you'll do it the same time every year. And you sit down and you write out where you want to be in 5 years. Now, that's not a goal. This is a dream. So if everything goes the way you want between now and 5 years, what would your life look like? And everybody in your life will be 5 years older. So you need to write that way. So if you're in your beach home that you're going to build, wherever your favorite location is, everybody's going to be 5 years old there. So all that is, excuse me, is get you thinking about what it is you really want. And it'll change over time. It's amazing how I used to say in network marketing, I guess I still say it, is that people are very successful, usually talk about the little checks of their people, and that's where their focus and concern is. And people who are not very successful talk about the big checks. Now, it's okay to talk about the big checks of all those type of things, but I found that by helping people get what they want, like Zig Ziglar says, you can have anything you want. So if your focus even in a network marketing company, is help the people you're sponsoring. What are their goals? What can you do to help them achieve those? So I look at a compensation plan when I get in a company, because that's the blueprint of my big house I want to build, if that's what I want. And so what is that I want? Well, when I was the very first distributor in Tishanoni, I helped put the company together back in 1995, and then we started July 1st, 1996, and I was the very first distributor for 14 years there, and we took it to 70 countries and stuff. I needed 5 people to get to the very top, 3 to most of it, and 5 to get. And so I just looked until I could find 5 people who could meet that qualification, get them there, and then I became the very top in the company. And so it was a focus on helping other people get there, because it's teamwork, and this is teamwork. This is working together and doing things together. So once you have that dream of 5 years, that's just it. Then you sit down and write your yearly goals for this year. And in those, be very specific again of what you want to accomplish at marks along the way, but where you want to be a year later. So in the business we're in, you'd go by title and how many people you've helped and whatever it is that you want to accomplish and what you're doing. And then you break that down into monthly plans. If I do this every month, and that by the end of the year, I will reach my yearly goal. And then the most important thing is the daily activities. That's where it all breaks down to all of us. It's easy to write the yearly goals and even plan out things for the month, but the daily activities is hard, and you'll be disrupted. We've had several deaths in our family in the last few months, and that just takes place of everything. You do what you have to do to help the family and going through all those type of things. So the daily activities, and learn to pick out the high payoff activities, the things that's going to pay off in your business, not the busy work. I'll have to tell you, when I first got network marketing years ago, 1969, as I was heading off to Vietnam to the war, I didn't know what it was. I just needed to make an extra $200 or $300 a month extra. I just took whatever came to me, and it turned out to be a great thing. For 6 years, we did very well, but my goal was just to make $200 or $300, because I couldn't make my Air Force check match my needs, because I had a wife and a new baby at that time. And so it was just something that came around. Since that time, I've studied and done a lot of things and been involved either sometime part-time or full-time in network marketing for 50 years. But my main goal is to help other people. If you can raise the water in the bay, all ships rise. And that's a great philosophy that Napoleon Hill had, Andrew Carnegie had it. I try to have it, try to live it. I know that a lot of you are that same way. So the key thing is identify those key activities and know which ones work. So multiply the things that work, eliminate the things that don't, and always know the difference. Now that's not as easy as it sounds, but if you always multiply what's working in your business, eliminate what's not, and always know the difference, you will be successful. And so I don't know if our time's about up, or if there's questions you want to ask, or if I've confused anybody or not. But one last thought I started telling you about that research we did, that 9 out of 10 people, 92% of the time, their thoughts are negative. They're about things they don't want. The world is full of that. 95 to 98% of the people are really focused on negative. And you can't say you're positive and act another way. You have to choose the emotions you want. And the emotions that help us be positive are love and serve and help and all of those type of things. It's not and so the difference between the human beings on this earth and all other things is everything else reacts, where we have the ability to choose. Now we're going to react to a lot of things. I see most people reacting today. They don't stay with their goals. They just react to whatever's happening. So learn to choose the emotions that you want and use those emotions of caring and loving and helping and serving and those type of things will attract you similar people, and you get teams that are doing things right, not rather than cutting corners and all those type of things. So I didn't mean to go so long on that, but
Oh
I
my
hope
goodness.
you get that point. So here's what I'm sorry. I travel all over the world. I've been to over 70 countries, and I have made good relationships all over the world. And I often would ask, what is the biggest addiction in this part of the country, in this part of the world? And we would talk about some of those, just because there are a lot of problems. And then if then somebody asked me, they'd say, well, what do you, all the things you've mentioned or drugs and whatever, all the negative things in the world. And I'd say, but I think the worst addiction is negative thinking, because that comes with a choice.
Yes.
Most things do. But if you choose not to be, positive affirmations. Number 3, and the most important things that Napoleon Hill wrote, first was a burning desire. Second was faith, believing in what you're going to do and sticking with it. Third was positive affirmations, or as he called it, autosuggestion. We have the ability to put down what we want to say. And so it's, a lot of people call those positive affirmations, but if you get up in the morning, the first thing you do is feed your mind of positive things, and a positive goal is written, I am, as though you've already achieved it. It's not, I want to try, I want to do this. You have to do that to start having the dream. And then we are drawn towards our expectations, good or bad. So if we have positive affirmations and things that's bringing us towards the things we want, we might have bumps in the road and ups and downs and stuff, but we keep moving towards what it is we want most in life. So now, if there's any questions or whatever, I'll try.
Oh my goodness. Well, you are just a profound wealth of information and wisdom. Your wisdom is incredible. And thank you so much. You just gave us a plethora of incredible things that to our lives, to our marriages, to our family life, to our businesses. And thank you really, truly so much. And for the valuable 50 minutes with you have been incredible. And I know that we can each take something to our own personal lives, to our own personal businesses and apply it, because that's the key, right? Is the actual application to do it, not just write it. But it's very, very powerful. And so just thank you so much, Del, for being with us.
I'll give everybody on here a challenge.
Please do.
If something I've said stirs something in you, it's not, most of these things are not things we don't know, but maybe we don't focus on them. So focus is very important. Focus, focus, focus. So if there's some things here that you did like, I'll challenge you that maybe we check back in 3 or 6 months and see how you're doing.
Nice.
Because accountability is a big factor in this. If you've raised kids, you know that there has to be accountability, or all kinds of things can happen. And so
things do happen.
I just think that do that as leaders with your people. Have accountability call, different things like that, where we say what we're going to do, and then we have to count the next week on what we did out of what we said we were going to do. It's to teach them not to, it's great to say, I'm going to sponsor 5 people this week. But did the person fail if they only got 3? Not if they're trying. They got 3 that they didn't have last week. And so it's to be able to say, well, maybe I was a little excited last week with 5. I'm going to do 3 again, or I'm going to do 1 this week. Or it's getting accountable and making happen the things you say you want to do. Because it's easy to say what we're going to do next month or next year. That's right. If I don't have to be accountable.
It's very, very true.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm sorry.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. And really, truly, just it's such an honor. This is why I wanted this brilliant man on with our team today. When I heard him, I was so fired up afterward. I'm like, I gotta get this guy for my essay, for our essay USA team. So thank you so much. And
I'm going to be watching South Africa now. See how you
you
guys.
better be watching South Africa. Trust me, they are taking it by storm. They're already taking it by storm. Anthony, can you unmute everyone, or you can individually unmute your lines and say a big warm thank you to Dell for joining us.
Thank you,
today.
Dale.